Hi, welcome to the Swim Parent Podcast. My guest today is Dr. Nori Pennisi. I was introduced to Dr. Nori through my daughter's swim club because Dr. Nori does a parent presentation about the best way for parents to support their swimmers without becoming the sorts of parents that are ruining youth sports across the country. So I really appreciated that. And Dr. Nori is a practicing mental performance and applied sports psychology consultant. She works with swimmers, coaches, and parents. She has a bachelor's degree in physical education and psychology and a master's degree in exercise and sports science and a doctoral degree in kinesiology, specializing in sport psychology. She's been helping athletes, parents, and coaches in multiple sports for a couple of decades now. She's also the parent of athletes and an athlete herself. She loves sports. She's got a passion for what she does. Please enjoy my interview today with Dr. Nori Pennisi. Dr. Nori, thank you so much for joining me and speaking with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
I am really excited to talk to you. You do mental training for swimmers, coaches, and parents. I was hoping we could just start by you explaining what is mental training.
Well, mental training is basically, I see myself more like a mental coach. You know, the swimmers have their dryland coach, they have their swim coach, one coach that might work more on technique or long distance coach, but I'm your mental coach because if you think about it, how much of the sport is mental? Majority of people will say 85, 90%. Some people will say 100%. But how much time do you spend working on your mental side? And most coaches and athletes, if not all, will talk about how the sport is mental. And so it's more trying to teach the athletes as well as the coaches, teach them mental skills and teach them how to use it, how to perform better, how to handle pressure, but also how to set goals and team building, team cohesion. So it's teaching mental skills that for most of the purposes, probably more performance enhancement, but it's also handling nerves, how to focus, what to focus on when you're about to compete, as well as in practice and preparation, pre-performance routines, and even post-performance routines, and how to think about your practices and your races and how to approach these types of things.
When you say mental training, it sounds like something that Olympic athletes do. Is that something that young swimmers can benefit from as well?
For sure. Even I've worked with kids as young as 8, but definitely developmental, like you're talking about. Just simple things, how to focus, just simple things. You do it in different terms, but all the way up. I remember talking to some kids that have gone to the Olympics and just talking to those athletes about how every athlete, I work with different sports as well, had their own sports psychologist at one point or another, and how important this is. But even young kids, it's learning how to focus, how to set goals and what goals are appropriate at certain ages and what's appropriate, focusing on the fundamentals and the details and when to approach things differently. And it's not just about outcome. It's not just about the time, especially in swimming, if you're going to be in it for the long haul, you don't want to just be focused on this goal driven just outcome because you'll burn yourself out, basically, I think.
You do a parent talk, a presentation for parents every year. And me not knowing kind of what you do or what to expect, I really thought it was like, well, she's here to tell us how to help our kids become Olympic swimmers. And and it was very much not that. I want to talk about one of the first slides that you put up because this stuck with me was you asked the question, why do you want your kids to swim? And
Mhm.
then the second slide is, why do your kids want to swim?
Mhm.
So I'm curious if you could talk about why those two questions are important for parents to consider.
I like to use sports as a vehicle to teach kids life skills,
Yeah,
and because at the end of the day, our kids more than likely probably will not become the Olympic swimmer, but there will be some, maybe.
sure.
But it's like at the end of the day, they aren't going to compete in this for the rest of their lives. And so there's a reason we have them in the sport. And hopefully, the chances of them that getting a full ride to college, there just aren't that many. And so it's like there's got to be reasons why we have them in the sport. And so to kind of keep that in perspective, how you interpret their successes and their failures and keeping them going forward. And a lot of the reasons why the kids swim, top three reasons every time for every sport, is going to be fun. But what's
Yeah,
fun to a 10-year-old is not always fun to an 18-year-old, It
right.
changes over time.
Mhm.
And another one, top three reason is always the social side of it. And so
Mhm.
that's really important. And so we've got to keep those things in mind. Of course, the competing and the winning, they're always up there as well. But it's really important to think about. And it's like, if I'm looking at this as an investment to get my kid a scholarship, boy, that's going to put a lot of pressure on my kid. And I would tell you, you're better off taking all the money you're putting into swimming and putting it all into academics, because there's 300 times more scholarships in academics than there are swimming. So
Mhm.
I just think it's really important that a
Yeah.
parent sits down with themselves and look at it, by themselves and think about it, because that's going to change your perspective as to how you parent, and
Mhm.
what's important and what the value is to why you have your kid in the sport.
What is your recommendation for when to stick with it if they are having a hard time, or when to pull out? How do families make those decisions?
Well, I mean, it depends, it depends on the reason. Every family's individual and every kid's individual. I mean, you definitely would want to see the reasons why. And
Mhm.
I always tell parents, look for patterns. You definitely want
Yeah.
to look for patterns. If this is something that the kid's coming home crying weekly,
Mm.
we need to take a hard look. What's going on? Sometimes it could just be the friends that are in that group, or not having friends in that group, and maybe there just needs to be a switch up or something
Mhm.
there. But if it's I'm really hating swimming, that's a different story. As a parent, you need to toe the line. I'm okay with, hey, it's fine if you want to quit swimming, but you have to do something after school. You can't
Mhm.
just sit home and play video games all day. There's got to be something in place of, but
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be swimming. I mean, but you've got to look at the reasons why. And why did you used to enjoy it? Is it just because you're not dropping time? Like, there's a delicate balance there. I don't want them quitting just because I'm not getting the outcome,
Mhm.
because I do want to teach perseverance as well. And you've got to go back and think, well, is that all I'm trying to teach? Is that just the outcome? Is that really, like, do I go back? I'm trying to teach other things through this. Is the outcome really the most important thing? Is the time drop really the most important thing? And sometimes they learn that. Look, we get so excited when they're young and they drop time or they get a cut,
Yes.
but it's like we can't let the highs be too high or the lows be too low. Because if that's the only time we're excited for them, then they start thinking that, oh, dropping time's the most important thing. That's what makes my mom and dad happy. And then when I don't do well, they say nothing or they're upset. Well, then they realize, oh, that dropping time's the most important thing. And then when they don't drop time, it stresses them out, and it's
Yeah.
too much pressure. So it's like you got to kind of balance all that.
The point you were just making about parents being excited about dropping time, but you wanna not overemphasize that. I mean,
Hmm.
it's hard to do.
It is.
It's
It's
really
very hard.
hard
You
to
want to be
do.
happy for
We
them.
w
Yeah.
and you are, and
And they
you're
are.
investing so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
time and
For sure.
money and
For
effort.
sure.
The parents are And that's really the struggle, I think, personally too, is like we are invested
Yes.
in, not
Yes.
just financially,
You're
but
all in.
time and effort, and we're volunteering and we're at the things
Yeah.
and we're the
Yeah. Yeah.
travel
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
meets, and you see how hard they work. So when
Yes.
they
Yes.
drop time,
You're
it's
excited
easy
for them.
just to be so excited.
Yes.
And then when they don't drop time, it's easy to be like, something's wrong.
Right.
Or
Right.
you feel like you need to comment and say,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know, "Were you
Mhm.
even trying?" I mean, I've had
Mhm.
the most terrible thoughts that I've managed to
Mhm.
not say, but it's
Good for
I
you.
it's so yeah,
Good for you.
good for me keeping
Good
my
for you.
mouth shut.
It
You
is
just
hard, isn't
it's so
it?
hard
It
because
is.
you can just sit there in your cozy seat in the stands and in your head judge their effort.
Uh-huh.
My point is that it is tough. It's tough to put all that in, sit
Yeah.
and watch, and
Mhm.
not make some sort of judgment or awful comment.
We all have those thoughts. Well, we really do. We're
Totally.
parents. We want our kid to be the best. Look, I have 3 athletes and I've
Yeah.
run them. One was a swimmer. I totally get it. I mean, I have
Mhm.
one that plays D1 sports. I have 2 that will D3. Like I totally get it, and I know the research. I
Mhm.
know how hard it is. And
Mhm.
it is very difficult, and you're like, oh, and it's heartbreaking to see your
Yeah.
child work so hard and not get the result. I mean,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
it is, and it's like, oh, it breaks your heart to see them
Yeah.
sad.
It does. Yeah.
But we know this is part of life. We do
Yeah.
know there's a bigger picture in
Yeah.
this, and this is gonna make them, this is makes them who they are, and
Mhm.
this is all part of their story, and that's probably one of my biggest things that I try and get each kid to recognize, and parents too. Your child has their own path. They have their own path. And like for you, your child, I told you,
Mhm.
your path is your path.
Yeah.
Nobody else can be on your path. There is no traffic on your path. There is a path made specifically for you, and your job is to be the best you there ever was. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, I've been in this for so long. Like, one of the biggest things for parents that I want them to know is don't compare. Don't compare. Don't
Yeah.
compare to other people. Don't compare.
Mhm.
Don't be looking at so and so who your child was faster than all along, and so's faster now, or so and so's been dropping time, or the whole group's dropping time and you're not. Don't worry. Your child is on their path. And to be honest, they'll go to college if they swim in college. They're probably going to college with nobody else from their club.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
They're on their own path. Their strengths are their strengths. Their weaknesses are their weaknesses. They have their path. And it's so hard not to compare, but it is just like, no, this is your child. And at the end of the day, you want your child to be a good person, a good adult when they grow up, and
Yeah.
it's like they have a path. And when I compare, it stresses them out. I can't tell you, I sit one on one with these kids, and
Mhm.
that is constantly a consistent thing I hear
That the
about
parents are comparing or the
parents.
kids are
Parents.
okay.
Well, kids do it themselves
Sure.
enough,
Yeah.
and they do, but the parents compare.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I know parents sometimes try and do it as motivation in a way, but it's
Yeah.
like, that's not the best way because the kid can't even
Yeah.
control that. The kid can't control what the other kid's doing,
Yeah.
And swimming, that's what's so hard about swimming too. You cannot drop time every race. And the kids know that. The coaches know
Especially
that.
once they get a little
Yes,
older. It's
for sure.
not yeah.
But you're not supposed to either. Think about it.
Mhm.
Like every meet, you're at a different point in training. You're
Mhm.
not supposed to draw
Mhm.
every race. You're just not. It's impossible. And so it's like, okay, well then why do we keep expecting to drop every time?
Mhm.
Why do we keep expecting our kid to drop every time. But when they're younger, they do. That's the problem. When they're younger, they
Yes.
seem to drop every time because they're
A lot.
young and they
Mhm.
yes, and they drop a lot of time. That's right.
Mhm.
And then it's like when they're older, they're fighting so hard just to drop point 0.5 seconds. I mean, I remember watching my
Yes.
kid trying to drop point something to make this dumb cut for 2 years and just never got it.
Yes.
And it was like, I mean, so sad, but it just didn't work out, you know? And so it was what it was.
I
And they
think
just
I think the nature of swimming being such a, time-based, sport, is so tough because
yes, so objective.
we all know what next level the kids want to achieve. I mean,
Yep,
the groups are organized in that
yep,
way, right? If you
yep,
achieve cuts
yep,
or A times, then you can move to this group. And so
yeah,
it's there. You
yep,
can't completely ignore it,
yep,
right? But you can't let it drive
yeah,
your response
right.
to the
It's
kids.
it's
Yeah,
definitely hard. I mean, but I tell the kids, like, what happens to the cups every year? They get faster.
they
They get
do.
faster. So
Yeah.
why are you chasing a cup? Because it changes. You have
Yeah.
no control over the cut. Your goal should be just to keep getting better, you
Yes.
know? And why limit yourself by a cut? You know, what if you say, "Oh, I want to go this," but you could have actually gone faster. You know,
Mhm.
why you what that's your goal, like that's actually might be limiting you. You could have
Mhm.
reached even further, kind of. But
Oh,
the
that's
cut's not in
interesting.
your control. The cut's
Yeah.
not in your control. And then the cut can become a monster. I'm trying so hard
Yeah.
just about the cut that all I'm thinking about the cut is that I'm forgetting about all the things it takes to get the cut. Like I forget, I'm so focused on this outcome goal, the cut, the
Mhm.
time, that I forget how to do all the things to get the time. The
Mm.
time's going to be the result of how I swim. So the focus needs to be on how I swim, not
Mhm.
the time. But all I'm thinking about the times,
I
so I'm
see.
forgetting about doing my 8 underwaters or focusing
Mhm.
on my catch or,
Mhm.
keeping my hips high when that's actually what's going to help me get the time.
Right.
But all I'm thinking about is the time. So I,
So it's not the goals that you're opposed to. It's not the
mm,
setting goals and
no,
trying to achieve them.
absolutely not. No.
It's just us parents and swimmers overly focused on things that we can't control. Is that
Correct. So
okay?
I'm totally fine. There's just different types of goals. It's fine to have these outcome
Sure.
goals because they're good motivation. They point you in the direction. They give you a goal where I want to go. Have that overall goal. I want to swim in college. I want to go here. Or
Yeah.
I want to get this cut. It's great. Okay.
Mhm.
But how am I going to get that? That's what you need to focus on a daily basis. Those are called your process goals, the
Yes.
steps it takes to get the outcome goals. And, it's great when I achieve the outcome goals. It's great. And we should celebrate those, but don't let them
Mhm.
be so high all the time. Those aren't the only goals. And that's why, those things the parents say, like, wow, your butterfly looks so pretty. You've really been working hard on them.
Yes.
But the
Yes.
thing about it is the outcome goals are not 100% in my control. Because think about
Mm.
it. The
Mm.
time is not 100% in your control. I tell the
No.
kids all the time,
No.
you go swim long course, there's a current in lane 1. There's a
Yeah.
current in lane 8. You
Yes.
might soft touch, and now you're relying on timers to get your time. Or
Mhm.
like this last meet, you got new wedges.
Oh,
They kinda
boy.
messed you up.
That
Or
was
you
a
had
whole thing.
yes, that was a whole thing. It was. Or you have a starter that holds you a long time and all these people fall in. That
Yes,
happens too.
it
And,
does.
and now
Mhm.
you're all discombobulated or your
Mhm.
goggles fall off.
Mhm.
It's not 100% in your control. All that affects your time. None of that was 100% in your control. But the process goals are in your control. How many underwaters you do,
Mm.
your effort, your attitude, your catch, you know, your turn, whether you breathe into the wall or not. That's all in your control. Why don't I focus on the stuff in my control? And so if I praise as a parent let's praise the stuff that's in their control.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
praise the things like your effort, well, I don't want well, don't say I you didn't give it, right? You look like you have more to
Yeah.
give. That we can't
I'll
judge
keep that to
that.
myself. Yeah, you look like you
Yeah.
were breathing great
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah,
You're not tired enough.
right. Let's not say that,
Okay.
but, even, like, did they eat well? Or,
Yeah.
that's not 100% in their control because they're probably not the ones
But
cooking or
maybe just
feeding them.
the morning prep or they,
Yes! Or
they
did they try and go to sleep? Did they put their
Mhm.
phone up, Things like that,
Mhm.
Did you go to bed early enough and put your phone away? Things
Mhm.
that's in their control,
Yeah.
Taking care of did they roll out? Did they stretch,
Mhm.
Did they do the whole warm down
Yeah.
or the whole warm up? I
Right.
harp on them about
A lot of
that.
them don't. I know.
Right. The warm downs for your recovery. Did you do
Mhm.
it? All
Mhm.
that's in your control. All that
Mhm.
makes a difference. It's things like that that as parents, not that we need to be coaching them, we need to step back from that, but
No, but
we want to praise their
we
effort.
can praise, them making these
Good decisions.
good decisions,
Mhm.
what you call those, the process goals?
Goals, the things in
Process
their
the
control. The
things in
thing
their control.
yeah.
So
Praise the thing.
we can praise those things,
Yeah.
and that's a healthy encouragement
Yeah,
that's not
definitely.
focused on okay, outcome.
Not total on the outcome. I mean, if you can keep in mind your long term, I think most parents have their kids in sports for good reasons. Keep
Yeah.
them out of trouble. It's a healthy activity, and I mean, it's fine if you want them to swim at college. I think that's great. I mean, my kids play college sports. I love that they play college
Mhm.
sports. It's really fun for me to go watch them. These are all great things, and it's something they strive for. And I really enjoy that for them. I admire they work so hard. I praise them for that. It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
And so I try and help them with that. And I think you got to know the values you're trying to teach. Like I want them to take from it, that they work hard, that they learn how to be a gracious winner and a gracious
Mhm.
loser, that they're not talking badly about other people. It's hard not to be jealous of somebody else's success all the time,
Sure.
but owning when you mess up. Are
Mhm.
you really giving effort at practice? Are you focused at practice? That kind of
Mhm.
just things that are helping them.
That one of the things I wanted to ask you about was the different kind of phases of development. Can you talk a little bit about parent roles? How do parent roles shift as they grow and develop?
The research shows there's 3 general roles that parents play throughout, the talent development, like an athlete's talent development, and you're a role model,
Mm.
so, like, how you react, how you, have you ever been watching a basketball game or watching a sport on TV and, somebody, "Oh, the stupid umpire," screaming at the ref at the TV, and then the little kid's watching and the next play happens and he's screaming at the ref, you're the
Yeah.
role model. How you
Yeah.
react, that's how they're gonna
I've
react.
done
So,
that. I've done
yeah,
that. Yeah.
so they remember. So to kinda keep that in mind that you are the
Yeah.
role model, you're always the role model, but you're the
Okay.
interpreter too, as I said before, that you interpret what's important, what winning means, how you interpret failure as well. Like when they succeed, or when somebody else succeeds, how you interpret it. They tend to take that on. They interpret the
Mm.
values as well. So you keep that role as well. And then you're role model, interpreter, you're the supporter. You provide support. Now, when throughout this whole age group, senior, you usually provide the financial support,
Yeah. Yeah.
all the way through, transportation. But then
Yeah.
they get older, they start driving. You don't
Yep.
bring them in the car as much. You're providing food, you provide emotional support. As they get older, you start to step back. When they're younger, you might help coach a little bit. if you were a swimmer, or you might remind them of like little technique things. Oh, don't breathe into the wall or something,
Mhm.
or do your underwaters or stuff. But as your swimmer ages, you start stepping back and you start letting the coaches coach. You need to
Mm.
let the coaches coach. But you got to remember also that you're paying for that. You're paying
Mhm.
for the expert coaches. And
Mhm.
hopefully, you trust the coaches, hopefully,
Mhm.
and so you step back. Not that you're supporting any less, you're just supporting differently,
Mhm.
and they need different things. You'll always the kids will always want your approval. They
Mhm.
always do. Even at our age, we still want our parents' approval.
Mhm.
You still want them to praise you. And so they're always looking for it, but sometimes it's hard. Sometimes kids, they know you love them, but it's just not what they need at the time, and asking too much. I think also talking about swimming so much is a hard one. Like, after the post meet critiques are
Yeah.
tough, you know?
Yeah.
Like, my advice on that one is, like, when they get
Yeah.
in the car, I always ask, "Did you have fun?" And then move on. If they wanna talk about it, let them talk about it,
Okay.
but if they don't bring it up, it's okay. The
So
just
that's if they're in a good mood or bad mood, you feel like the approach should be the same post
I
meet.
kinda do.
Yeah.
You can always say the congratulations or
Yeah.
whatever. "Oh, that was fun," or, "Did you have fun?" My first question was always like, "Did you have fun?"
Did you
And
have
it was,
fun?
"Oh, did you have fun?"
Yeah.
And then they'll go on. If they had a good meet, they're gonna talk about it,
Sure.
and let them talk about
Yeah.
it, but if they don't wanna talk, then there's no need to go
Is
on
there
the
any
older
good
they get.
way to encourage after a difficult meet for whatever reason? I mean, what can a parent say that's helpful?
It depends how much the kid wants to talk about it, but
'Cause
it
it's so easy to wanna fix it,
Uh-huh,
right?
uh-huh,
From
uh-huh.
parents.
Yeah.
You had a bad meet. It's so easy to, "You'll do better next time," or
Uh-huh,
"We'll get some lessons.
uh-huh, uh-huh,
We'll
uh-huh,
fix it."
uh-huh,
It's
uh-huh.
hard. I find that
Yeah.
that's hard is to
Uh-huh,
let let them sit in a disappointment or let them
uh-huh.
feel sad. It's so easy to wanna fix it
Fix
and
it.
say
Yeah,
something that
yeah,
will make
yeah,
them feel
yeah.
better in the moment.
Uh-huh,
Do you
uh-huh.
have advice for what to
Yeah.
say after a hard meet or a tough meet?
Sometimes it's just a hug, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a hug and say, "I'm sorry," And s
Yeah.
really, actually, I always I think of my kids, I said, "I love you. I'm proud of you no
Mhm.
matter what," kind of,
Mhm.
and just let it sit. But I do come sometimes they don't want the encouragement right away,
Right.
because it feels fake. And
Yes.
it does,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
they know it. They don't
Yeah.
believe it at the time.
Yeah.
They don't. I know they don't.
It's
I
probably
hear
not a
it.
good time to
Mhm.
say that you appreciated their sportsmanship or
Mm-mm.
what that
No.
my
Nope. Your effort looked great.
your effort was
No. No.
amazing.
No.
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 Yes.
You just let them sit for a second. That's not a bad thing,
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing to let the kids feel it for a minute,
Yeah.
Eh, we just don't want them sitting too long with it, and we go on
Yeah.
because you go on. Dinner's gonna come and,
Mhm.
we've gotta keep moving. The sun rises the next day, and they've gotta learn that, They've gotta
Mhm.
learn how to process it, go through it, and if they wanna process it with you, we'll process it together. But it's just, I know you're feeling down, and,
Mhm.
and give them a hot minute, and then if they wanna talk about it, give them a chance. Um, if they're stuck there, you might wanna approach it with the coach, because
Okay.
they're gonna receive it better from the coach than you, I think.
Yeah.
But it's okay to give encouragement, but in that moment, I haven't found many kids who want it in that moment.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, but they do wanna know you love them. They do. Some of them just wanna know you're there.
Mhm.
I'm not opposed to encouragement at all, but you don't have to fix it. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Not as much encouragement as support, maybe in the sense that I'm here. I'm here. but not a, like, "You're gonna do better next time," you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
It's just, "I'm here. I'm
It
here for
feels
you. I love you."
empty.
Yes.
I know at least my daughter has expressed that it feels empty. She wants to be allowed to be upset for a certain amount of time
Yes.
at least, and any sort of encouragements I can give just make her angry. So
Yes.
I've I've
Yeah.
learned to not say very
Yes.
much. But
Yes.
every kid is
Every kid's
different.
different.
Yeah.
That's right. Every kid's different. You've got to know your child in that sense. And I think sometimes when we say too much, they end up not trusting. Like I've heard this
Mm,
too, where the kid does, I don't believe them anymore because
yeah.
they're just saying stuff now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't believe them, because they're
Yeah.
just trying to make me feel better,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
You're just my mom, you're supposed to say that.
Right, right, right. So, but you being there means a lot,
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think that's important.
You touched on, motivation earlier, like you said, like one of your sample, questions that parents have asked you is, how do I motivate a kid who isn't themselves
Mhm,
motivated to
mhm,
do XYZ? And I know
mhm.
that it is very tempting to want to have some sort of prizes or awards or
Yeah.
money if you
Mhm,
drop time or what.
mhm, mhm,
I have done that in the past,
mhm.
but then what I didn't think through, and I've had this conversation with some other parents, is then when they get to the point where they're not dropping time all the time, you know,
Yes,
and
it
they used
backfires.
to get, yeah, they
Yeah.
used to get
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
money or a sweatshirt they wanted or whatever when they drop
mhm,
time, and now
mhm.
it's not so then that just totally backfires.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, so the question would be, how do parents motivate their swimmer if it seems like the swimmer isn't themselves motivated?
Well, it's up to the swimmer, in a lot of sense, but we can have standards. We can want it for them, but we can't make them want it. And that is true. I can want them to want it, but they've got to want it themselves. The tangible stuff like the bribery things,
Yeah,
it gives short term, but it
sure.
won't give the long term,
Yeah.
but if they have something to look forward to, like at the end of the week, we're going to dinner, I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
or like every meet we go get ice cream or something, that's just a given,
Yes.
regardless of how you do,
Right. Mhm.
then it's something like that. I know I don't have a great answer about the motivation. I just think you kind of have sort of standards of what you expect from your child because these are the values I'm trying to teach.
Yeah.
These are the commitments we've given, we've said we do, so this is what we're doing. And you hope, you just do. I mean, I think that's what you would kind of expect that from them, so there's almost not a question to it. And sometimes that's just at different phases. The older they get, you've gotta look at kind of why is your motivation lacking too? You might wanna probe that question, see what's the problem? Is it you're just not liking it, or are you stressed out about homework? And see if there's something else that's going on there that their motivation might be lacking in that sense.
I was also thinking about motivation as far as, like, having that competitive
Mhm.
drive,
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
because it seems like some kids and families are just happy for their kids to swim and get all the things out of it,
Mhm,
and they're
mhm, mhm,
enjoying
mhm.
meets,
Mhm,
but
mhm, mhm.
the kid isn't particularly the most competitive kid in the
Mhm,
bunch,
mhm,
and so they
mhm,
don't.
mhm.
I know that there are some kids who they're enjoying the race. They don't care if they're the first one, you know? Maybe they don't wanna be the last, but they don't care if they're the if they come in for I don't know. And so that seems hard for parents if,
Mhm.
like we said at the beginning, if the
If
2
the parent
questions don't match
don't
up.
match up. Mhm, mhm, and the parent will spend the whole time trying to make the kid that, and at
Yes.
the end of the day, is that the best for the kid? Like,
Yeah.
who are we trying to
Yeah.
satisfy there?
Yeah.
And that's hard. I mean, I think that is hard for a parent to watch. I've seen that happen, and it's hard to teach competitiveness. I can't teach that. I
Yeah,
can't.
it right, so
Yep.
you can learn all the
Yep.
technique and the
Mhm.
skills, and you can do the same workouts that everyone
Mhm.
else is doing, but
Mhm.
some kids seem to
Don't
have
have that drive.
a drive and some kids don't necessarily.
Mhm.
Not for this thing. Maybe they're
Mhm.
competitive in other things, but not for
Mhm.
this sport.
And it's
Um,
some like where I talk to, are you not competitive because you're scared of failing? Is it you're
yeah,
scared of putting it
that's a
all
good
out
point.
there? So
Mhm.
sometimes there's that, but it's more often than not. I mean, that is part of it, but that usually they're competitive though. Like they have that drive. They just don't
Yeah.
want to put it out there. But those
Okay.
ones that you're talking about that aren't competitive, that's just their nature. you know, you might be able to increase it a little bit, but I can't really teach that.
No, I know.
That's kind of that's it. And it'll drive the parent crazy.
Can't make them want to
Yep,
win every
exactly.
time.
You can't make them want it, you know what I mean? But that's appreciating your child. Like
Yeah.
that at the end of the day is appreciating this kid for who they are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they're not going to be successful
Sure. Oh,
at what
sure.
they do. And that's what
Yeah.
we've got to remember. That they're learning other things from the sport. They don't have to be the best at this. You're getting other valuable lessons from this sport. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, just because they're not going to the best college, best swim college in the world, does that mean they failed? No. It's
Mhm.
kind of like realigning your values and what do you really want from this?
Yeah.
I worked with a kid the other day and kind of thinking about, well, what does it matter at the end of the day? What's the fulfillment? Like you win or you go to the best college and then what? And then what? You finish first, somebody thinks you're the best. Is that really fulfilling for the rest of your life? I
Wow.
mean, there's
That's
always gonna be somebody else, you
yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
like, you put it in perspective a little bit. I mean, there's plenty of pro athletes who have won big things and like even Olympic swimmers. I mean, I remember listening to David Fox, won gold medal in the whatever 92 or some Olympics for swimming. He's like, I mean, my gold medal's great. I like it. Yeah, it's neat, But man, what I loved more was going to practice and messing around with my friends and trying to achieve that stuff. And it's like, wow, and you reached the top. And it's
Wow.
kind of like,
Yeah.
wow, you won gold. And you're not
Yeah.
sitting there like, "Oh, this is the bet."
Yeah. I
That
know
wasn't the fulfillment.
Michael Phelps has been pretty open about his
Yeah,
mental health struggles,
yeah,
post Olympics, after
yeah.
all the winning, after all the
Mhm,
success,
mhm.
not feeling fulfilled or feeling
Yeah,
like there was still something missing. So that's
yeah,
definitely a powerful message.
yeah,
Wh-
and it's something to think about. Like, at the end of
yes.
the day, as a parent, like,
For
what
parents too.
yeah, I mean, it's the road to nowhere. We keep pushing them, pushing them, pushing them for what? For
Yeah.
what? Is it my
Yeah.
own ego? Like, at the end of the day, is it? Is it
Mhm.
so that everybody looks at me and says, "Oh, I'm such
Mm.
a great parent because my child is such a good swimmer?" Like,
Ouch. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and am I putting that on my child?
Mhm.
I'm not saying you wanna teach your child to want to do well at something because you want your
And work
child to
hard
do
at it.
well. Yes,
Mhm.
because you want your child for themselves to do well,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
work hard at something and be,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily to be successful in swimming, it's to be successful at being you, to
Yeah.
being them. I mean, to being who they are, that what they do, they're a person of integrity and a person you could count on and person that works hard and you can
Yeah.
trust. At the end of the day, that's what we want. And
Mhm.
swimming's the vehicle to do this. And it's like, so that's what I want to really, at the end of the day, I want them to do as a parent. And so if I can keep that in mind, how they do at Big Southern Classic doesn't really matter.
Right. Yep.
Like this one meet,
Yeah.
that's why it's like, don't get too short-sighted. Keep the
Yeah.
term perspective, and kind of one meet's not gonna make or break them. I promise you. You know?
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great
So,
advice.
yeah.
What one last question.
Sure.
When do you, so you're available for anyone who's in our area. I
Mhm.
know our team has access to meeting with you and mental coaching one-on-one.
Mhm.
W- Um, for people who are not local and they would like to find some sort of mental training coach, how do you know when is a good time to set up an appointment with your
Mhm.
kid to talk to a mental
Mhm.
trainer? How do you
Well,
know?
I
Do you wait till there's something wrong? Do you do it
Mhm.
before? How do we know?
You could do both. I mean, I do work virtually with people all over the
Oh, great.
country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we'll
yeah,
put your
especially
information
in
then.
college too. Like a lot of kids reach out to me from colleges as well.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah,
great.
so I do work virtually. But it tends to be for me that people reach out to me when, well, something majority when they think their child's struggling a little bit, or
Okay.
they want to put it in perspective. But I do have people reach out to me preventatively, like kind of
Yeah.
preventative medicine, or I want my kid just to learn mental skills that are going to help them perform better,
Hmm.
So either time works out great. I would when you just want your kid to do better, or they might be it's hard for me to answer this because I do get a lot of people who are like, my child's having a little trouble with their nerves, and I just want somebody else to talk to. It's
Yeah.
not do or die by any means,
Okay. Yeah.
this isn't making or breaking them, but they just need somebody else to talk to about it. Um but then there's people who are like, well, I know it's really important, so I want them to develop skills on how to cope and how to handle, different
Hmm.
situations. So I think both situations are great for that. But I always tell people, I'm only as good as you let me be good. I can tell
Mm.
you, I've studied a lot on how how the Olympians, how pro athletes think, and what all the psychological skills and characteristics that make people succeed or that elite athletes have. But if you think it's all hokey, it's not going to work. you So
Yeah.
if your child's not ready and just the parent wants it, it's really not going to do much good.
Okay.
So if the child's interested,
Mm.
then it definitely works better. And so, having a conversation, and I always introduce it as a mental coach. I'm just,
Yeah.
your brain is a muscle, and just like you need to work your muscles, and you need to use your brain and work your muscles, and it helps you think of things differently. And so anybody wanting a mental coach to help you learn what to focus on, help you set goals and think about things differently to help you perform better, I think that's a great time to
Yeah.
reach out,
That's
especially if
that's
they show
helpful.
an interest,
Yes.
especially if they're like, hey, and you could always introduce it. Hey, there's somebody who they help you think about things differently, or that a coach might not, or somebody talk
Yes.
about your specific, how you help you focus a little differently. Would you
Yeah.
be interested?
Yeah.
And just different ways to
Yeah.
support them. Mhm.
Thank you. I think
You are
that
so
you've given
welcome.
us some great
You
things
are
to think
so welcome.
about. Lots of questions for the parents to ask ourselves about what why why do we want our kids to swim? So,
Yeah, well, thank
yeah.
you for having me. I hope
Yeah.
it's helpful. I enjoyed it.
Yes, it
Thanks.
was. Thank you so much, Dr. Nori.
Thank
I'll
you.
I'll put your information in the show notes. Can you tell us where people can find you online? Your
I don't
no.
have anything
No
online,
social media. Okay.
actually.
No, that's
No,
okay.
I have nothing.
That's all
It's
right.
always been word of mouth, and my business has grown from that, actually.
Yeah.
So,
Then we'll do
yeah.
that.
I mean,
I'll just put
yeah,
information where people could find you if they wanted to sign up
yeah,
for a virtual session
that'd
or
be
in
great.
person.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
great. Thank you
Awesome.
so
All
much. I
right.
appreciate it.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
If you liked my interview with Dr. Nori today, please like, subscribe, follow, and share with your friends. You can find the video version of this podcast on YouTube at Swim Parent Pod. You can find me on Instagram at Swim Parent Pod. You can find the audio only version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And you can find all the info, including episodes of the podcast at theswimparentpod.com. Thanks so much for listening. Share with your friends, and I'll see you next time.